I'm 78 years old, and I have more photographs than people left to call. That's not something I expected to say. Not at 50, and certainly not when I was younger. Back then, I thought being alone was a kind of luxury. Quiet, controlled, clean. No one to answer to. No one to disappoint. I used to believe that was freedom. Now it just feels like a long hallway with no doors. I live in a small apartment on the 3rd floor. There's a window facing west, and every evening the light comes in at the same angle, touching the edge of the table, the arm of the chair, the old cabinet where I keep things I don't use anymore. I notice these things now. I didn't used to. Time slows down when there's no one waiting for you. I talk out loud sometimes, just to hear a voice. Not because I have anything important to say, just to fill the space. It wasn't always like this. When I was young, well, people told me I was beautiful. I didn't question it. You don't at that age. You just move through rooms and notice how people look at you. Doors open a little easier. Conversations linger a little longer. You start to think that's how life works, that it will always be that way. I had money too. Not at first, but it came quickly. I worked in marketing, long hours, sharp suits, glass offices. I was good at it. I could read people, understand what they wanted, even when they didn't say it. That skill takes you far in certain places. I remember my first real promotion. I was 29. I bought a new apartment with large windows and a view of the city. I remember standing there the first night, heels still on, a glass of something in my hand, looking at the lights below. It felt like I had arrived somewhere. I didn't ask myself where that somewhere was. There were men, of course, some kind, some not, a few who stayed longer than others. I wasn't careless. I just never settled. There was always a reason to wait, someone too demanding, someone too quiet, someone whose timing didn't match mine. And then there was my work. It gave me structure. It gave me identity. When people asked who I was, I had an answer ready. I didn't have to think about it. My parents used to call me every Sunday. It became a routine. I'd sit by the window, coffee in hand, and talk while half thinking about the week ahead. They asked simple questions. If I was eating well, if I was sleeping, if I had met anyone. I answered them quickly, sometimes impatiently. I thought there would always be another Sunday. There was a man once. His name was Daniel. He was steady, not exciting in the way I was used to, but present. He listened when I spoke, even when I was distracted. He noticed things, small things. We were together for almost 3 years. He wanted more than I did. Not more love, I don't think, just more commitment, a shared life, dinners that weren't scheduled around my meetings, weekends that didn't feel like a gap between work days. I remember one evening he sat across from me at the kitchen table and said very quietly, "I don't think you're ever really here." I didn't understand what he meant. I was sitting right there. I told him I was building something, that this was temporary, that things would slow down. He nodded, but his face changed, just a little. A few months later, he left. There wasn't a fight, no shouting. He packed his things over 2 days and said goodbye at the door. I remember thinking, as it closed, that it was unfortunate timing. That's how I described it to my friends. Unfortunate timing. I went back to work the next morning. Years passed like that. Promotions, travel, new apartments, new furniture that no one else ever used. I had colleagues, acquaintances, people I saw at events and dinners. We laughed, we talked, we moved on. I told myself I was choosing this. There were invitations I declined, weddings I missed because of deadlines, birthdays I forgot, then apologized for with expensive gifts, conversations I postponed because I was tired or busy or simply not in the mood. It all felt reasonable at the time. There was always something pressing, something that couldn't wait. People, I thought, would understand. My mother stopped calling every Sunday at some point. I don't remember exactly when. It shifted gradually, every other week, then once a month. I was often the one to cut the calls short. "I'll call you tomorrow," I'd say. Tomorrow came and went. The last time I saw her, she looked smaller than I remembered. She held my hand longer than usual when I was leaving. I felt a brief discomfort, like I was being held back from something. I gently pulled away. "I'll come again soon," I said. She smiled, but it was a quiet smile. She died 3 months later. I wasn't there. I arrived after. The house felt different, still. My father sat in the same chair he always had, but he looked emptied. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? I stayed for 2 days, then went back. There was work waiting. I told myself that's what she would have wanted. I believed that for a long time. At 50, I had everything I had worked for: a high position, financial security, a home filled with things I had chosen carefully. I could go anywhere, do anything, buy what I liked without thinking twice. And one evening I came home, set my keys on the table, and realized there was no one I could call, just to say I was tired. Not because people didn't exist, because I had let them drift too far. It wasn't a sudden realization, more like something that had been forming quietly for years, finally becoming visible. I tried after that, reached out to old friends. Some responded warmly, but their lives were full. Children, partners, histories I wasn't part of. Conversations felt polite, like visiting a place you used to live, only to find someone else there. My father passed a few years later. I was there that time. I sat beside him, held his hand. It felt important, in a way I hadn't allowed myself to feel before. But it was late. Too much had already gone unsaid. After that, the world grew quieter. Work continued for a while, then it didn't. Retirement came, not as a reward, but as an absence. The days stretched out. I filled them with routines, groceries, walks, television I barely watched. I told myself I was resting. But rest from what? There was no one asking anything of me anymore, no one needing me. That's a strange thing to realize. Not painful in a sharp way, just hollow. I still have the photographs, smiling faces at events, places I visited, versions of myself that look confident, certain, surrounded. I look at them sometimes and try to remember what I was feeling in those moments. It's not always clear. I think I believed I had time, that whatever I was postponing, calls, visits, decisions, would still be there when I was ready. Time doesn't argue with you. It just moves. If you're listening to me now, I won't tell you what to do. That's not my place. I can only tell you what I didn't understand. I didn't understand that attention is a kind of love, that being present, really present, matters more than being impressive. I didn't understand that people don't always wait, even the patient ones, even the ones who love you. And I didn't understand how quiet a life can become when the movement stops. Sometimes I think about Daniel, where he might be, if he found the kind of life he was asking for back then. I hope he did. I never tried to find out. There are many things I never followed up on. You think you're choosing independence, but sometimes you're just choosing distance, one small decision at a time. And distance, once it settles in, is hard to close. I don't regret my work, not entirely. It gave me a sense of purpose when I needed one. It shaped me. But it took more than I realized. Or maybe I gave more than I should have. It's difficult to tell the difference when you're in the middle of it. Now, in the evenings, I sit by the window and watch the light change. The city is quieter here than it used to be, or maybe I am. I make tea. I move from one room to another without reason. Sometimes I pick up the phone, scroll through names I haven't spoken to in years, and then set it down again. What would I say? Hello, I'm here now. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't pause while you figure things out. I think if I could go back, not to change everything, but just a few things, I would stay a little longer in certain moments, finish more conversations, answer more calls, sit at the table without looking at the clock. I wouldn't assume there would always be another chance, because there isn't always. That's the part no one tells you clearly when you're young. Not in a way you can feel. You hear it, but you don't believe it. I didn't. Now I do. I don't have many years left. I can feel that in small ways. The body slows, the days feel heavier, sleep comes in pieces. I'm not afraid exactly, just aware. And in that awareness, things become very simple. There are a few people I remember clearly. My mother's voice on the phone, my father's quiet presence, a man sitting across from me, asking me to be there in a way I didn't understand. These are the things that remain, not the titles, not the apartments, not the carefully chosen furniture, just moments I moved through too quickly. If you have someone who still calls you, answer. If someone is sitting across from you, trying to tell you something that isn't easy to say, listen. Not because you should, just because one day you might wish you had. I don't expect anything from saying this. It doesn't change where I am now. It just feels necessary to say it out loud, at least once. The light is fading now. It does that earlier each day. I'll make some tea, sit by the window, and watch it go. There's a kind of peace in knowing this is what's left. Not the kind I imagined, but quiet all the same.